Question everything, trust nothing. Welcome to the Danger Close Alpha podcast. The danger is close. Stay tuned for the alpha. We're going to kick it over to Crusader. Hopefully he can let us know what is on the intelligence report today, my brother.
Dude, we got all kinds of madness happening right now, right? The biggest story, which we're going to be covering in the later part of the show, is definitely going to be New Mexico's governor just saying outright constitutional rights aren't absolute, right? So we're definitely going to be covering that. We're going to be talking about Biden ending the Alaskan oil deal that was going on over there after all the problems with oil and energy dependency we have right now. That is not the best time for this. We've also got, guess what? Straws, paper straws are toxic, way worse than the plastic straws. Who would have guessed? We're going to be covering that as well. And last but not least, we also have artificial embryos being created with no actual sperm or egg needed.
Oh, but now I don't know if I missed it, but also we've got a major NATO event happening.
Oh, yes.
Over which, that's going to be towards the end of the
Baltic
stream.
Sea.
Yeah, there's something going on over the Baltic Sea that y'all need to be paying attention to. So if you haven't already smashed the like, make sure that you do that. Welcome, everybody. It's Sunday. We are here, Danger Close Alpha, ready to rock. Got our vests on for protection. You know what I'm saying? The government's out there sniping.
Stay strapped.
That's right. Got to stay strapped. So super excited about it. Let's just dive right into it, dude. Let's start off with something a little bit fun, because I think, well, actually, this is maybe anything but fun, but a little different than politics. Let's talk about what scientists are doing with the embryos. I think this is a very interesting thing. This could get wild. Scientists grow whole model of human embryo without sperm or egg. Okay. Let me zoom in on this. Scientists have grown an entity that closely resembles an early human embryo without using sperm, eggs, or a womb. The Weizmann Institute says the Weizmann Institute team said their embryo model made using stem cells looks like a textbook example of a real 14-day-old embryo. It even released hormones that turned a pregnancy test positive in a lab. The ambition for embryo models is to provide an ethical way of understanding the earliest moments of our lives. Is that really what it is, though? We're going to talk about it. The first weeks after a sperm fertilizes an egg is a period of dramatic change, from the collection of indistinct cells to something that eventually becomes recognizable on a baby scan. This crucial time is a major source of miscarriage and birth defects, but poorly understood. It's a black box, and that's not cliche. Our knowledge is very limited, Professor Jacob Hanna from the Weizmann Institute of Science tells me. All right, so let's just dive into this, okay? This article is kind of long. I'm not going to read the whole article. This is scary, okay? I don't even know where to start, dude. We ultimately live in this world, I feel like, as I see it, that is getting farther and farther away from God and trying to become God. So to me, when I see an article like this, it says like, I can be the creator. I don't need some, man in the sky with angels and playing harps and all the things that people think is going on, whatever. I can just be God. And I think that some of these huge money institutes, I think that some of these huge money people like Elon Musk, I think some of the things that are going on in the world today in the name of quote unquote science is really in the name of how do I become and play God? And I think it's scary.
Yeah, dude, it's the same, right? It's the same thing as when Moses went to Egypt and said, "Hey, let my people go," and he was making all these miracles and certain things happen, right? Turning the Nile River red and all these things, and then the Pharaoh just turn around and be like, "Hey," to his little shaman wizard people, can you replicate this? Yes, we can. And they would do a cheaper version of the replication, be like, all right, cool. It's not God. It's just whatever, right? It's a way to like demystify and like push people away from the narrative of God because they can replicate it, right? So if they can replicate life, it leads us into a very strange world, because there is a thing out there where there's, I don't know if it's an international law or just a consensus in general, that the human genome cannot be patented worldwide, right? But if we start creating artificial humans, their genetics aren't going to be exactly like the human genome, right? Things can be altered, right? Whether it's through them physically using the CRISPR technology, which is, by the way, if you guys don't know what CRISPR is gene editing technology, or they just, whatever Fugazi they use, they could technically debate that that is not the actual human genome and it is a replication of some kind. And then these humans, which were artificially created, could technically be patented, right? Because they are not actually part of the natural human genome. And then we have these like artificial humans running around that are government property or company
Yeah,
property of
what
some
are they?
kind.
Yeah.
So it leads us into a very weird world. And then it becomes a level of competition. Who's better, the artificial humans or the natural humans? Right? It goes into a world of compliance, of not just compliance, but of convenience, I should say, where people are like, I don't want to destroy my body and give birth and go through the whole 9 months of having a
I'll just buy
pregnancy
one.
belly, right? And then having to push out the baby, all these things is going to do to my body. I can just artificially order a baby from the womb maker over there, and they will grow it for me and deliver it to me at whatever age I want. And we start falling into a very dystopian future where where
It's going
does
to be a
this
bad
take
episode
us?
of it's going to be a bad episode of Black Mirror, right? Think of all the chaos that could come from this, because the facts are the way, and this is my opinion. I feel like if you look at the perfection and the complexity of the human body, I don't see any. Okay, there is an idea. Okay, so when people give you the Big Bang Theory, for example, okay, and we're not here to dive into religion and whatnot, but I just want to throw an idea out there. There is a theory in science that basically says from chaos or from order, or no, hold on a second, I'm gonna say that backwards. You cannot have order as a result of chaos. And that's a simple idea. So a glass, if I throw a glass against the wall and it breaks apart into 1,000 little pieces, it over time will never reform itself into the glass. It will become sand over time. So you don't get order from chaos. Well, the idea of the Big Bang Theory is that this massive amount of chaos happened where these huge massive rocks just collided, and then as a result of that, all of this beauty that we see around us, the world that we live in, the human eye is one of the most complex things you could ever freaking make, and people still have this idea that there's no God out there. It blows my mind because I don't see any.
Yeah,
There's no real explanation for it, and so what people are trying to do is I think in a weird way they're trying to take God out of it even further by saying, well, I mean, if we live in maybe an alternate reality or this, that, and the third, we were probably just created the same way we just created this embryo.
exactly, right. You justify certain things by being able to replicate them. So you're like, oh, but at the end of the day, even if you replicate, right, we create a simulation world, right, a video game of like, let's say GTA, where all the NPCs are AIs and they're aware and they're living their own life. Right, there's a whole movie about it with Ryan Reynolds, that he's literally an NPC in the game, but he thinks he's living real life.
Hold on, are you talking about the thing on Amazon Plus where he
I don't know
basically
where.
dies? No, Ryan Reynolds isn't in that. There's a cool
No.
one.
No,
There's
no,
a
he doesn't,
cool
no, no,
one.
he's not the one that he dies in. He's literally like he's like a banker. He's like a guy that works at a bank, and
Okay.
all this craziness and crime is always happening. And then he finds out one day, he puts on like these like goggles or whatever from one of the bank robbers, and he sees that that his world is a video game. He's actually inside of a video game and he's not real, right? And all these crime people are actually the players just doing their thing, playing GTA,
Playing
right?
the game.
So if we create that simulation, it still proves that even if those things are not real, right? They're artificial intelligence. They are created by an intelligent design. It didn't
Mhm.
just create itself out of nothing,
Yeah.
right? Like there wasn't just an evolutionary step that just magically happened and you poof, you just got here. And every little body part of yours, your kidneys, your eyes, your heartbeat,
That all
your
works
veins,
perfectly together.
all perfectly work in a specific, exact way to keep you alive. That didn't just magically happen. So I still think that they're still trying to justify it, even though it makes no sense. No matter what we replicate, even if we can replicate life, it still proves that intelligent design went into it to be able to make it
Make it
happen.
happen.
Because there's no embryos just dropping out of the sky, out of nowhere, just poof, it just appeared, right? The right elements were there at the right time, and bam, we just got an embryo falling out of the sky. Like, it doesn't happen that way. It requires intelligent design, which is God, right? God is the intelligent design behind everything.
And then the question becomes, how could they use this technology, right? What are they able to actually program
Bro,
into these embryos
have you seen Superman?
to be able to do? Well, I've seen a number of was there a newer
No,
one?
not a new
You're
one,
gonna
but just in general, Man of Steel, the old Man of Steel movie, right? Superman comes from a world where artificial births are natural. Nobody is
Mhm.
giving a regular. What's also
Right.
happening in this country and around this world? Declining births, right? We are
Mhm.
having less and less births happening. Fertility rates are dropping. Testosterone is dropping, and this leads us to basically the same future that Superman comes from his world. Same thing happened. People were getting pregnant. They had to create people, so they artificially started creating people. Every person was designed with a specific reason to exist, right? That is the whole purpose of the villain of Superman, Zod, is he was created to defend his people and make sure that his people thrived no matter what, right? At
Yeah.
any length he would go to make sure it happens, which is why he comes to Earth and is willing to sacrifice the entire planet to revive his planet. So I believe that's where it's going to go, right? You're going to have specific humans with specific needs that are specific demands, right? They're going to just have you are created to do this. You're going to be a politician. You're going to be a wood chipper. You're going to be a this. You're going to be a that. And that drive is inside your mind. So you are designed and pushed in that direction to do those certain tasks, and you will never be unsatisfied with what you're doing. So even if you're a toilet cleaner, you're going to be happy being the toilet cleaner because you are programmed to
To be
want
that.
and do that,
Yeah.
which is a scary world.
Yeah, it definitely is. Guys, the science and the beauty of science and the ability for us to be able to learn and take information and create new things, I think is a blessing. It can be a really good thing. But I think there's a line somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but I think we definitely crossed it with this one. We're just creating embryos without sperm. The other really interesting conversation that could be had, and I'll be careful with how I say this, but it almost begs the question of, do they want to study these first 14 days, these first 21 days, these first 28 days, so that they can validate the idea that we're not actually Xing out, unaliving an actual baby? Because what we learned from this is that it was just X, Y, and Z at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like, kind of giving validity
Yeah.
to the idea that what we're doing is okay, because we learned from our science experiment that it wasn't actually a human life form at that point. We've learned that as a result. And so I think it can be used so many different ways to twist and manipulate what is ultimately a perfect thing, that is pregnancy. It's hard to get pregnant. It's hard, right? So I guess I also see this. So it took my wife and I like a little bit over 3 years to get pregnant. And we went through IVF and paid like $25,000 to do that, did all of this stuff, right? And it didn't work. Okay. There's a lot more to the story than that, but it didn't work. And then ultimately, she ends up getting pregnant naturally after spending all of that money. And I look back on it and I was like, it wasn't time for me to have a baby yet. Right. And the stars aligned. I'll say the stars aligned. God had a game plan for when I have my baby. And I look back on it and it was perfect. We were trying to push at a time when I probably wasn't at the point where I was ready to be a father. Right. And God said, nope, nope, nope. And we have this perfect, beautiful thing that's actually incredibly difficult to get pregnant. And now we're just saying, it's not that hard. We just toss X, Y, and Z in a little petri dish, and we take a whole lot of science, shake it up, and we create a baby. No big deal. And I think that it kind of downplays, like we were talking about the whole time, the whole idea of what a perfect thing that we have. Why are we trying to mess with it? So at any event, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll see if you'll know, because if they start
Definitely see him walking around.
if they actively start, creating, and they go from 14 days, like, oh, let's see what happens after 28 days. Let's see what hey guys, check this picture out. Now all of a sudden we've got literally the first artificially created baby in a womb, or lack thereof, Trust me, that will be all over
Dude,
the
they're
news.
already
And then
creating.
implanting the AI that we're playing around with into said baby, in said womb or not womb or whatever, without sperm, without an. This could go exponentially bad.
They've already created the artificial wombs. They've
The artificial
grown.
wombs I've seen.
Yeah, they've grown sheep. They've grown animals in artificial wombs. So if you don't think that's coming for human trials at some point, you're mistaken, right?
They start with animals to head
they've done
towards humans
cloning.
always.
Yeah, always, dude. They've cloned animals. They've done all kinds of stuff. You think there's no some type of rogue country that we might know as China that's probably attempted to like clone people if they haven't already?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Who's gonna stop them?
I'm sure. Smash that like if you haven't already. It's Sunday afternoon. You're hanging out with Danger Close Alpha. We love you guys. We appreciate each and every one of you for being here. If you're watching football, go Browns. Hopefully my Browns are beating up on my Bengals about now. Should have started about 15 minutes ago or so. We'll keep an eye on that as well. All right. So let's move it on. The next fallacy or the next fun thing is, and I want to tell a quick story about this. I jokingly, a lot of times when people will, so the thing is when you go out to eat now, at least where I'm at and a lot of other places, they won't give you a straw. You got to ask for it, right? They won't give it to you. And I jokingly, whenever this happens, or if they hand me a straw, a paper straw, it's in a plastic case. It's in a plastic cover. And so I jokingly always say, yeah, save the turtles, man. And like half the people get it and think it's funny, and half the people are probably on the other side of the fence and think I'm being a total ass. You know what I mean? How dare you? But I always say it, save the turtles. I get it. And I just, very tongue in cheek when I say it. But these paper straws that everybody thought was a great idea. First of all, they suck. Crusader, have you drank for even more than 15 minutes with a paper straw?
Then you have soggy straw.
Oh, yeah. You get like they just and then it pinches together, right? It's not working. It's going limp
like Biden.
Yes, it's going limp, right? And then you can't even suck through said straw. It's a joke, but it goes farther than that. Let's talk about why it goes farther than that and why this is important, because it's all part of the greater, fallacy that is this save the planet thing. Not so eco-friendly. Paper straws contain more forever chemicals than plastic, study says. Not a fan of those paper straws that have replaced disposable plastic ones in the name of being eco-friendly. As it turns out, some of these efforts to save the environment may have been in vain. A new study published Thursday in the journal Food Additives and Contaminants found evidence of, quote, forever chemical PFAs, that's per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, in the majority of both paper and bamboo straws tested. Scientists in Belgium tested 39 brands of straws made of paper, bamboo, plastic, and stainless steel found in shops, supermarkets, and restaurants across the country. Of the straws tested, almost all contained some concentration, I think is what that was supposed to say, of PFAs, which are often used during manufacturing to make products water resistant. Out of the total of 39 tested, the chemicals were detected in 27, none of which were stainless steel. Paper straws, on the other hand, were the most likely to contain PFAs, with 18 out of 20, or 90% of the paper brands testing positive. They were also found in 4 out of 5 bamboo straws, 3 out of 4 plastic straws, and 2 out of 5 glass straws. Okay, so I've been telling people for a long time that all of this save the planet nonsense is exactly that. I'm not saying that I'm not a proponent of doing things good for our environment, but if you just basically look very simply on its face about what is happening to make said eco-friendly, result happen, it doesn't make sense. The stupidity of going from plastic straws to paper straws wrapped in plastic is like government intelligence. It's an oxymoron. You don't go from plastic with plastic to paper with plastic. I thought you were trying to save the planet.
Plastic straw with paper cover, right?
Yes, plastic straw, paper cover. That's what I meant.
And now I went to paper straw with plastic
cover.
Right. And it just doesn't solve anything with the simple fact that you're trying to save the turtles, but extinct humanity, right? Let's just get you forever chemicals in your body, which is exactly just that. forever in your body, which should not be there. They've already found microplastics in human blood stream, right? So
Mhm.
that's not going away. So I wonder how that's going to evolve the human genome. We're going to start mutating here pretty soon, like like the mutant A club, right? So that is not going to solve the problem. The problem is other countries. Even if all of America goes to paper or stainless steel straws and we stop plastic straws, you think China has paper straws? You think China cares
No.
about that? No, they're not. They there's many other countries, not just China, that do the same thing. So the level of whatever it is that we're trying to do can't outweigh what the rest of the world is doing, and the rest of the world is creating more problems than anything, and all we're doing is giving human beings a worse solution, and it's going to make them sick. I guess it's great for big pharma, right? They're sure going to be making a lot of big
That's a
bucks
fact.
here in the next future as you're
That's a
mutating with your
fact.
plastic, with your paper straws.
Yeah, the whole narrative is all about virtue signaling. And I can't stand the idea that you effectively just raise a flag in the name of, an idea when you truthfully, like, these people have to know that this doesn't actually work, or that there's more behind what is presented to the people. They have to. So it's intellectually dishonest. And so that's my first problem. My first problem is that, like, you're presenting it to me in a way that is not factually correct. That's not true. You're presenting it in a way that is intended to deceive and cause deception, right? And so while this is a simple idea, this gets so much bigger. So it starts off with something like the plastic, paper straws, whatever, that whole deal, which, by the way, there's always a good that comes with bad and bad that comes with good. So going over to paper does not surprise me that they had to do something to make it so that it was water resistant, and then the water resistant stuff is bad for you. There's never just a clean, crisp answer. Almost always there's something bad that's going to come of a change that is made. And so, but this goes all the way up the chain. You've heard us talk about it before. When you go all the way up the chain and you talk about the energy grid, and we were talking about on, like, debate crypto, the beauty and the positive things that could come of, like, crypto mining, etc. Right? But it gets pitched out there as this awful thing for the environment. It's killing this and killing that, and it's so, negative on our environment. Well, the reality is that all the things that we're trying to do in the name of electric vehicles is absolutely using slave labor. We've talked about that before. They're using it to mine the lithium and mine the cobalt, and then you got to ship it overseas. And you're probably think I'm a broken record because I've talked about this multiple times, but on its face, these are very simple ideas that just don't line up. So I don't understand. I guess my big
There
question
has to be
is,
some money incentive. Somebody owns one of these paper straw companies that works with some level of senator or something, and they're like, hey, we got to start pushing this,
oh yeah,
right? And start making some money. Because look what Patriot Caveman said, right? Which is perfect here. It says, third grade science: trees take carbon from air and produce oxygen for humans and animals. Think, sheeple, right? So if we're cutting more trees to make more paper straws, we have less trees. So that means our air is more polluted with carbon, which is already a problem, right? Because we're worried about climate change because it's real, right? So why are we chopping more trees that can fix the climate change problem to get straws
we got
that
to save the
don't
turtles.
fix any problem? Because of the
The
turtles. That's right,
turtles.
the
Yes.
turtles, the turtles. Let's
Yes.
forget about breathing. The turtles have water; they don't
That's
need
right.
us.
That's
But
right.
and then
They're going to give turtles the right to vote, is what it is. It's all about, it's all in the name of votes, like, right? Like, this is always comes down to voting. So pretty soon your neighborhood, turtle in the little pond next to your house is going to have voting rights, and they're going to be tagging all of them as Democrats. So just
they're
throwing
gonna
it
be
out there.
mail-in ballots.
You heard it. You heard it here first. That's right. They're all the turtles are Democrats, and they are all voting. So they're just gaining more and more and garnering more and more votes. Yeah. I just think that on its face, this is really, really simplistic. It doesn't make sense. It's just backwards. It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. that there's problems with the new idea of paper. Even if you could get past the idea of taking a paper straw now and wrapping it in plastic, if you could get past that, and the argument would probably be, but it's a lot less plastic in the cover than it was in the straw,
Well,
right? They'll
you're
argue
getting
it,
forever
right?
chemicals in your body.
Right.
You're
That's what I'm saying. So
poisoning yourself.
exactly. So that's
You're
what I'm saying. So
poisoning yourself. That's the biggest problem. Even if you are saving the turtles, even if there is less plastic in the world, okay, cool. You're still poisoning yourself.
yeah.
So what are you solving? You're killing yourself, right? Like, why? Why? Find another solution and then get rid of the plastic straw. Something that doesn't kill me in the process.
Yeah. Well, this next article, speaking of solving problems or lack of solving problems, our president, Joe Biden, has been absolute commander in chief
What a
of
fumble.
stupidity. Fumble on this next one. But let me just stop real quick. If you haven't already smashed the like, please do that. Make sure that you guys are subscribed. We're here every Sunday at 1 p.m. And then if you're here for this and you weren't here for Debate Crypto, we're on at 12 right before that. So make sure to check us out on both channels. We appreciate the support, guys. And also, we're going to be doing some random different things as part of the channel. If you guys want to, hey, can they do we have a membership thing set up for the DCA yet, or can we not do that until we get more followers?
Wait, what?
More subscribers. You know, they have they can support the show by being members on
we have that
on Debate Crypto. Do we have it for Danger Close Alpha too?
Oh, no. We're not monetized on here.
Well, that's what I was asking. We got to wait until we're monetized, right? Okay, so forget that idea. I was just going to throw something out there, but you know. All right, cool. Chat, we're always paying attention to. We appreciate all of the support there. Somebody said, any news? Let me just touch this real quick. Stan said, any news on the DCA NFTs? Yeah, so I mean, candidly, we had to just take a full-on, full-stop break. It is not over. We have not canned the project.
The market is just so down, dude.
Yeah.
All NFTs are just collapsing, right? Look at the Mutant Apes. Look at Yuga Labs. Like, everyone is taking time right now to start continuously building in the background before coming out. You can create the best utility project with the best promises right now. Nobody's buying any.
The only projects that are selling are somebody that's launching $1 million at an ad campaign, which we don't have, obviously. And
or they're using people overseas to buy up your NFT project to create fake volume and all that fugazi to get you involved into an NFT project. That's the only way people are selling projects out right now.
Yeah.
Right now is the time to build. When the market comes back and the NFTs start coming back, Danger Close Alpha. This is why we're doing the podcast, right? The podcast right now is a way of getting the brand to continuously grow. Meanwhile, the market of NFTs are down. So when the market comes back up and this channel continues to grow along with it, we can start then, leveraging both to grow the project even more.
Penny Pincher said it's down because it's a money grab. There's a lot of NFTs that are absolutely money grabs for sure. And I think that you need to be able to differentiate and distinguish what's a money grab versus what's not. We had a big event back in May that was great. Got together with a bunch of people, got educated at a real world event. Like, it was fantastic. Like, so there is opportunities in NFTs. We're not going to sit here and sell you NFTs right now. We're just giving you a little update. Somebody asked, but there's also, there's always going to be money grabs. There's going to be money grabs in stocks. There's going to be money grabs in crypto. There's going to be money grabs in NFTs. Anywhere somebody can grab some money from you, they're going to try to grab some money, just like your local bank. So
if you want to join the community, the Discord, right?
Jump into the Discord. So do we have the Discord linked in the bio? We sure.
Pick up a few NFTs if you want. We're not telling you to, but if you want to pick them up now that things are down, right?
Yeah,
it is.
Gas prices are low for sure. All right, so let's talk about another fumble from your commander in stupidity, Joseph Biden. This one's bad. Biden cancels last oil and gas leases in Alaska's Arctic refuge, overturns sales held by Trump. In an aggressive move that angered Republicans, the Biden administration canceled the 7 remaining oil and gas leases in Alaska's Arctic National Wild Refuge on Wednesday, overturning sales held in the Trump administration's waning days and proposed stronger protections against development of vast swaths of the National Petroleum Reserve, Alaska. The Department of Interior's scrapping of the leases comes after Biden administration disappointed environmental groups earlier this year by approving the Willow Oil Project in the Petroleum Reserve, a massive project by ConocoPhillips, Alaska, that could produce up to 180,000 barrels of oil a day on Alaska's petroleum-rich North Slope. Protections are proposed for the more than 20,000 square mile of land in the reserve in the Western Arctic. Some critics, whoa, what just happened? Hold on a second. I don't know how that just happened. There you go. Some critics who said the approval of Willow flew in the face of Biden's pledges to address climate change lauded Wednesday's announcement, but they said more can be done. Litigation over the approval of the Willow project is pending. Alaska is home to many of America's most breathtaking natural wonders and culturally significant areas. As the climate crisis warms the Arctic more than twice as fast as the rest of the world, we have a responsibility to protect the treasured region for all ages, Biden said in a statement. His actions, quote, meet the urgency of the climate crisis and will protect our lands and waters for generations to come. All right. I've not heard more bullshit in a couple sentences that I don't. It just gets just worse and worse and worse, right? This is not a right versus left thing. This is like we were talking about earlier. This is a common sense thing. The reality is the economies that thrive and survive, they utilize their natural resources. One of our massive natural resources is oil. And we need oil to be able to produce and have happen things that things need to move around the economy in a million different directions.
It just
every
helps us
single day.
for not being dependent on other countries.
Yes.
Like,
speak on that.
Dude, we got the BRIC nations riling up, right? Whether you believe in them or not. Whoa, big thunderstorm. Whether you believe in them or not, right? They are coming up against the United States. The United States is now more energy dependent than ever. Our reserves was emptied out the last couple of years to bring down gas prices. We have not been able to fill up those reserves. We said, literally, the Biden administration came out and said, we will not be buying oil over $70 or something. That was like 60.
Yeah, shot themselves in the foot on that dumb
comment. And then the Saudis and everybody was like, oh, yeah, let's pump those numbers, baby. They're cutting out the supply of how much oil they're producing. The prices of oil are skyrocketing. I think week over week now. So oil is way higher than it's ever been for a long time. And now we're not buying any oil from them.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have our reserves filled up. And the only way to start becoming energy independent is by starting to drill and get oil within our own country, because we have oil. We're just not extracting it and refining it. So then how are we going to fill up the reserves in case of any catastrophes or any problems? And how are we going to, buy up oil if we can't? So we're not printing money because we're tightening. And at the same time, we're not drilling our own oil. So what are we doing here? We're depleting ourselves more and more, making us weaker and weaker and more dependent on other countries to survive as a nation. How does that make any sense?
No, it makes no sense. I want to touch this comment. Penny Pincher says, we are the #1 oil producer on the planet. What's the problem? Well, the problem is, and that's true, right? We are, okay? That being said, what we are doing is exactly what Crusader was just talking. We're the #1 producer on the planet, but we still require foreign imports to meet basically our domestic demand, right? We've got like 73 countries around the globe that we need to be able to even just like support ourselves. So why, if we have the ability to not rely on these countries that, side note, are effectively at war with us, right? And they're playing games with not just our dollar, but they're playing games with our livelihoods, right? Why do we want to depend on people? Why would I want to depend on my neighbor if I know my neighbor hates me and has it out for me? You can't trust that. So I'm going to make myself dependent on that person? Absolutely not. And this is not a game of, neighborly disputes. This is a game of life or death for the better part of hundreds of millions of people. And obviously we support the United States. The reality is this is all done in the name of this thing that they call climate change. The reality is, yeah, sure. Is the climate changing? Yeah, but that's just part of an ever evolving and changing world. It's not changing in the way that they say. The numbers, if you'll get mixed reviews from a million different scientists. I saw a lady come on that was a scientist and a big proponent of the climate change narrative. And she openly talked about, because she was a big supporter of it. And she came out and said that the climate change narrative is all about money. And if you are willing to come out and falsify and or tweak data or only use certain subsets of data to support that narrative, you will get the promotions. You will get the information put up. Why do you think you never see on the news anything that says climate change is fake? You hear it from TikTok, you hear it from here, you hear it from there. It's not because it's not actually talked about. It's because they don't want it talked about, because it goes against all of the narratives, i.e. us producing oil and all the things that we're
the way
not
science
doing.
works is somebody discovers something and everyone else goes to disprove it, right? But we don't work like that anymore. We say, hey, this is the narrative. Anyone that goes against it, it cannot come on TV. They cannot be talked about.
That's
They
right.
cannot be shown. They're not going to be funded, right? So we're not actually doing science. We're just pushing narratives, and that's the problem. Even if we are the biggest oil producer, why do we still not? Why do our reserves at the lowest ever in history? Right, like Patriot Caveman over here mentioned. Why are we not filling up our reserves? Why are our gas prices so high?
Yep.
Right? Why? We're the largest. It's because we don't have enough, and we have plenty more that we're just not taking advantage of and using because we're under this narrative, right? The whole narrative of fossil fuels not being a renewable source of energy and that it's all going to go away. They've been talking about that since forever, that it's going to run out. It's going to run out any minute now. In the next 20, 30 years, oil is going to run out. If that was true, you think these massive corporations would have not already adjusted and pushed us in a different direction and we would have a better alternative? We don't, right? Because you're going to say, oh, the electric vehicles are the alternative. The electric grid can't sustain the electric vehicles, right? So if our electrical grid can't sustain it, how are we going to then go just automatically get rid of fossil fuels? How are we going to import all the components that we need to build these electrical vehicles and electrical everything? Oh, wait, we need oil to move those massive rigs and to move, be mining in Africa and doing all these other things. That's where the oil goes, right? None of those things are electric. So it doesn't make any sense at all. There's been tons of research showing that, fossil fuels are not made from fossils. They are not actually running out in any kind of way. It's actually generated and created by the pressures of the cores, mantle, and all these different layers of ground and for whatever Fugazi, whatever. I'm not a scientist, but there's tons of science that shows the opposite. They just don't talk about it because they don't get funding. They're not allowed to.
Yeah, and it's money and control. It's money and power. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this up. I disagree with this, but I'm gonna pull this up. Penny Pincher said, "Not really. We got so many wells shut down here in America. It's all about money, and oil providers don't see enough money to drill. When oil goes back up, watch how fast the no. You're gonna
Oil is
watch.
up.
Yeah, it is up for one. So that's not true at all. And second of all, you're going to see those wells open back up when we get a different president in office, somebody that realizes how or is willing to at least fight against this absolute BS Fugazi narrative. Let's look at this. If it wasn't about money and control, wouldn't we be operating cars on water? Because a dude figured out how to do it, and it worked a long time ago. Guess where he's at? We don't know.
Not around
He's
anymore.
6 feet deep. I'll tell you that. Probably deeper because they want to make sure nobody found him, right? And so ultimately, if it wasn't about that, we would be actually doing things positive. No, this comes down to carbon credits. That's where this really comes to, right? The idea behind the carbon credits are that these massive corporations are able to do things in the name of virtue signaling. They buy up all of this land to offset basically all the BS that they're putting into our, world, right? And they're selling all of it. You can literally buy right now, you can buy carbon credits as a massive company, and they're doing it. They pay for the ability to put more stuff out into society. Well, where do you think that's headed for you, the individual? I'll tell you where it's headed. It's headed towards with these carbon credits, it's headed towards your what's the idea? Your social credit score. And effectively what's going to happen is they're going to be able to control where you go, how often you can go there, et cetera, by saying that, well, you've flown this much, so you got this much, you've used this much carbon, you drove this much, so you've used this. And guess what? The electrical vehicles and the other things, whatever, guess what those are about? They're about the ability to be able to track you, to be able to shut you down. All of this comes down to money and power, point blank, period. And these carbon credits push us towards the social credit system. The social credit system is all derived around money and power and ultimately the ability to shut you up because if you don't shut up, it's going to make your life worse. That's where this is all in a big ball of wax headed, and it's scary.
Yeah, look at this comment from Penny Pincher himself. It says, I'm in Oklahoma and have several friends in oil. Oil makes the world go around. So why are we not using more of it? Why are we not extracting more? If we're already the number one producer and we can get more and we know we can, why are we not doubling down on it, right? Why are we not, okay, and then at the same time, let's say, okay, we don't want to use oil. Okay, why aren't we doubling down on nuclear energy, right? Clean energy, right? No, why are we not building more nuclear facilities that are way more advanced now than ever? Why not? Oh, wait, I thought you wanted electricity. I thought you wanted a better infrastructure. They're not doubling down on that either. There is a narrative and an incentive to collapse the country from within, whether it's Biden's administration, the deep state, whatever you want to call them, who cares? One way or another, what's happening doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And it's a narrative that ultimately is probably not going to stop anytime soon. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better. And we need to figure out a way to be able to, I guess, navigate the upcoming waters that are basically, shooting. I don't want to say it that way. That are basically
climate change is definitely raising the water, so we definitely need to figure out how to navigate.
That's a fact. That's a fact. The water's raising. We've got all these crazy storms that are happening because of climate change. There's been so many different things that have been said that have been debunked. Patriot Caveman said something earlier about the different time periods. The 60s were running out of oil. The 70s were heading into another ice age. The 80s, the ozone layer is going. The 90s is the start of global warming. There's always
nobody
a narrative.
talks about the ozone anymore.
Yeah,
I remember growing up in school being told all the time, ozone layer, massive gaping hole. We're all gonna die. Stop using hairspray bottles.
Fear.
Right? Like all this stuff. And then from 1 minute to the next, nobody speaks about the ozone anymore. So did it get fixed? Where's the science on that? Did it get worse? Where's the science on that? Oh, wait, it's just no longer relevant. They have to create a new boogeyman.
A new scary narrative for you to pay attention to, so that when they give you the solution, you're more than happy to comply. I mean, right? This thing didn't work either, and they know that and knew that.
And we're going for round 2.
We're gonna go for round 2 fight, right? So I don't know. We will we'll continue to pay attention to the thing that is the Fugazi climate change crisis, if you will. And it's all about money, power, corruption, tyranny. Call it what you want. It's ugly. Smash the like if you haven't already, fam. Make sure that you got the bell notification on as well. Let's switch gears a little bit. I will tell you, this one hits home for me a lot. I was in the United States Marine Corps, and I think that when you get down and dirty, the Second Amendment is a very important. I mean, they're all important. They're written for a certain reason, to give us unalienable rights and freedoms. And when I see a governor doing what this next governor is trying to do,
what a world.
Yes, what a world is right. New Mexico governor shocks with comment about Constitution after issuing temporary gun ban, not, quote, absolute. Elon Musk said, how soon can this person be removed from office? Yeah. New Mexico, New Mexico Governor Lujan Grisham, controversial comments in a defense of temporary gun ban prompted fierce backlash on social media. The Democrat, what a surprise, issued an emergency public health order on Friday. Again, fear. Suspending the right to carry guns in public across Albuquerque and surrounding Bernalillo, I don't know. Depending on how they're pronouncing that county, for at least 30 days to following the shooting deaths of 3 children in the area. Local law enforcement officials expressed concerns that the governor's order violated Second Amendment rights. Oh, you think? The governor acknowledged the ban may face legal challenges and addressed these concerns during a press conference. After a reporter questioned whether Grisham was upholding her oath to the Constitution, she argued no constitutional rights were fixed, including her oath. She said the time for standard measures has passed. New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham said of the gun ban, this is her, by the way, if you didn't know that. No constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute. Well, that says it all right there. She retorted, Grisham cited restrictions on free speech as an example of how rights can be curtailed in emergency situations. Commentators from across X, formerly known as Twitter, angrily responded to the governor's statement, with some calling for her impeachment. All right. This is absolutely despicable, first of all. This is ugly. My first question is this, Crusader. and this is always the argument. This is a simple argument. Criminals are called criminals because they don't follow laws, and criminals had to be the people that are not following the laws that are creating the crime that is what she's trying to stop. So how does enacting a law or an emergency order or whatever to have to all it's going to affect is the law-abiding citizens that would otherwise be able to lawfully protect themselves? What does this do? It's a very simple argument. It makes it easier for the criminals who don't give a shit about what your laws look like anyway, because they're criminals, right? It makes it easier for them to do what? Criminal activity with their firearms that they don't care about your laws anyway, which is how this all started.
It makes no sense, right?
No sense.
You are saying, oh, we're trying to protect our citizens. There's too much crime. People are getting shot. Oh, wait, you guys that can defend yourselves, you got to put your arms away. There's no more carrying concealed or open because criminals are shooting people. Oh, wait, isn't this the time for more, civilians and law-abiding citizens to protect themselves instead of
from said
now
criminals,
just disarming them? Yeah, from said criminals and disarming them and saying, well, now you just gotta wait for the police to come and save you. Come depend on the government. We are the government and we're here to help, right? And this is just the basic concept of what she's arguing. We're not even going into the actual violations of the Constitution. How can you, as an elected official that was your number one job is to protect the Constitution, right? To uphold its values. And you're literally just going to go up to say, well, that's not my opinion. My opinion is it doesn't matter.
It's not absolute.
I don't care. Well, it's not about what you care about, right? So exactly how Elon said, when is this person getting impeached? When is this person getting the boot? How can we allow an elected official to say such a thing, right? There was a famous person that used to do the same thing because she talks about how it's an emergency case. And when there's an emergency, I can instill these new powers that supersede the Constitution. So I have declared it an emergency. What do they also do that with? Oh, wait, that's right. The fog around the world, emergency powers. Everything was emergency approved, right? Nothing was actually FDA or CDC approved. It was just under emergency powers.
Yep. So it says it right here. The governor of New Mexico is using a public health order to suspend a right guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. Yes, a public health order.
Yeah. So now that we have allowed, right, her and many others in this country to rely on these emergency powers, they're going to be constantly creating emergencies to always overstep their bounds. There's an emergency this, there's an emergency that. It's a slippery slope, right? The Constitution is the Constitution. Do not violate it. You violate it, you're out. It's that simple. But we are not doing that. We're allowing these violations to go through, and people are just looking the other way. Oh, it's just 30 days, right? It was just 2 weeks, right? To curve the spread, right? So all these things, everyone's just compliant, and they're literally just, carving away at what the foundation of the Constitution, what it means to uphold the Constitution. We are allowing people that you voted in, whether you voted for them or not, to get into power and literally tell you to your face that your rights do not matter. Yep. It's whatever they say. You know who else did that? The Romans, Caesar, right? When there was an emergency, then when there was war, they gave up all their rules, all their laws, and all hail Caesar. He's the ruler. He declares everything. Well, guess what? There was enough emergencies to the point where he said, you know what? We ain't going back. It's staying this way.
That's right. I like it like this.
Right? So at what point is that going to happen here in the States, right? Mm-hmm. Where the emergency is just going to be so great, we're just not going to go back. It's just going to be under emergencies forever.
Yep. The whole idea is exactly that. It is under the guise of public health, right? Now, it was, we saw it in the COVID era, right? They had this public health outcry, this, scaring the heck out of you, inflating numbers, paying people to. Don't need to dive into that. People, you guys know what happened with that, and we're probably about to hit a round 2, which will be really interesting to see how people respond. But because so many people did respond in a compliance fashion that just said, oh yeah, like the government said it, it's got to be true. Yeah, the news said it. I'm in, right? It's the same thing with this, because on its face, that didn't make sense when you started to put things together. Same exact thing here. And I don't know, man. The fact that an elected official could say even my oath is not absolute. So do you get to decide at where your oath isn't absolute? Like, because I don't
Depends
think
who
that's
pays her
what it
more.
was,
Her oath is gonna mean something,
right?
obviously.
And again, this is again in the name of virtue signaling. When people try to talk to me ever about the Second Amendment, right? We'll have the conversation. Anybody wants to jump in the chat if you have a different opinion, love to hear it. But the facts are really simple, and I'll say it again. Criminals don't abide by laws. Laws are not going to stop criminals. Therefore, let me just put a little example out there. If you walk into a bank to rob a bank, but you know everybody in there is likely armed, you pull out a gun, it's what? How many against one? Versus you walk in the same bank knowing there's a bunch of law-abiding citizens in there, so they're not carrying firearms. Guess who's got the upper hand? So it just makes it makes it so much easier to be a criminal. It is that simple. It is that simple. Now, am I for having checks and balances as it relates to guns? Absolutely. Do I think that from a simple standpoint, there should be some simple things that makes sense to be checked upon for a person to see whether they should be able to carry a firearm? Yeah, because but the facts are still, even with that, simple enough. A criminal is still a criminal, and if a criminal wants to possess or find a firearm, listen, you can get anything you want off the street. I'm gonna tell you right now. Make all the laws you want.
Drugs are
Drugs are
illegal.
illegal. There it
There's
is.
all
Same
kinds of
time.
drugs in the. You just go around
Drugs
the
are
corner and start
illegal,
asking
and
for
I
some.
promise it would not be hard to leave the house and go get drugs. And so it's the same thing with firearms. It's the same thing with anything else. Criminals are going to be criminals, are going to be criminals. And the way that you fight criminals are basically you have to meet force with force. That's just a fact. If you allow yourself to be a victim, you will be a victim. If you meet force with force, you have an opportunity to be able to protect yourself.
Nobody's breaking into Fort Knox because they know
No.
it's well protected, right? Ain't
That's
nobody
right.
breaking into the White House because they
That's
know
right.
it's well protected.
I
Right?
like this. I like this. An armed society is a polite society. And
That's right.
I don't disagree. I mean, do you know that statistically, just to throw this out there, the states and cities that have the highest violent crime rate are the ones that have the strictest gun laws? Okay.
Yes.
The states and cities that have the lowest have the most laxed gun laws. Do you think that's a coincidence?
Wait, it gets worse than that. Let me tell you one above that is we are like top of the list for gun crime or gun violence in the entire world.
In the world, yeah.
Now you remove those cities with the tightest gun control, right?
Oh, we're the
And you
lowest,
take them
right?
out. We drop down to like 180 something, bro. We're like nowhere near the top of the list. So literally, what's putting us up there are the few cities and states that are controlling all the gun rights in the virtue signaling of protecting the people. You
Yep.
guys are creating and allowing these people to become victims, right?
Yep.
They are the problem. So does America have a gun problem when if we have more guns and we remove those cities and states from the statistics, we drop down to like 180 something place?
Yep.
Obviously, it's not the gun problem. It's the politicians removing guns from people that can protect themselves.
Yep. I want to touch on this real quick. So Penny Pincher said, we need to be talking about drugs. It's killing America. So we definitely will do this on a stream and talk about it. We're going to talk about the border crisis and the drugs that are coming across. And I 1,000,000% agree with you. I'm in recovery and I have a lot of experience from the drug world in my past. And I want to throw out there, like, I've lost so many friends to this epidemic that is the drug world, and it's disgusting, and it's continuing to not only come full force, but it's coming even heavier and harder. And again, this is a criminal thing that is happening that's just continuing to grow and grow and grow because of, again, politicians and some of the decisions that are being made that are making it easier for the criminals. It's not that it's ever going to stop. Right? Crime's never going to stop. You could take away every single weapon on earth and people will beat each other to death with their hands, right? So it's never going to just stop.
How do I get rid of those rocks?
It's just going to be the method at which it happens, even if you were able to dispose of every single thing on planet Earth, right? And so I look forward to seeing some just common sense coming back into the world. 2023, dude, I got to tell you, like, I look at some of the things that are happening and I'm like, there's no way this is real. This has got to be a fake article, or this has got to be fake news or whatever. And it's not. And it's not.
Dude,
I can't wrap
I
my
don't
head around it.
know. I don't know if people are just dumb, like these politicians are just dumb and they truly believe what they're saying, or somebody is just paying them the right amount to say what they got to say, because makes absolutely no sense. They talk about having a a mental wellness check for people trying to buy guns. We need some of these for politicians, bro, because there
That's
is
a
no
fact.
way because there's just no way. If they truly believe this, there's no way they're mentally okay.
Yeah.
There's just no way.
The math doesn't math. The math ain't mathing. All right. So last but not least, first of all, if you haven't smashed the like, do it. Put on the bell notifications. We're here every Sunday, 1 p.m. This one we should be paying some attention to here. All right. So we got some things happening over in the Baltic Sea that definitely could cause or could be a little bit of a little heads up on something to come. Major NATO exercises begin in the Baltic Sea, rehearsing potential Russian attack. NATO allies have launched a major maritime exercise north coast near the coast of Latvia, Estonia, and involving about 30 vessels, up to 3,000 troops to practice repelling a potential Russian attack and counterattacks. During the 2-week maneuvers in the Baltic Sea, about 30 ships and about 3,000 troops will practice repelling a potential Russian attack and counterattacks. The military will also train to conduct airborne operations and land strikes from the sea. German Vice Admiral Jan Christian Kack noted that the reliable deterrence against the Russians requires both defensive and offensive capabilities. The exercise involves states from the Baltic Sea, including Sweden, as well as the United States, Canada, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. The United States is participating with the 200-meter-long amphibious assault Mesa Verde, which can carry about 800 Marines. The exercise, which will also include training and defending sea routes through the Baltic Sea, as these are critical logistic routes for Estonia and Finland. It says if the Suwalki Gap were blocked, and this is quite easy because there's only 2 roads and 1 railway, we would only have the sea route and we would rely on it, Kak explained. So what do you think when you hear this, Crusader? I will tell you, because I was in the Marine Corps, we always did exercises. We were always, we wanted to be one step ahead. We wanted to be prepared. So let me just say this first. We're not like shouting sound the alarms here. We're just bringing up a news article that could be something to pay attention to. I will tell you though, when we did most of our preparedness and readiness, it was alone. Like it was us. It was the Marines, right? Or it was the Marines and the Navy. And like it was the United States with United States, at least for what I was a part of. It seems to me, looking at this from a military perspective, when you start joining together with a bunch of other countries and doing exercises across, borders, they're getting ready. They're more than getting ready.
Yeah, they're teaming up, right? They're preparing themselves for when the poop hits the fan, right? Because things could escalate at any moment, right? Anything can go wrong. The world is at a very tense place right now with Russia and the Ukraine problem, right? China and Taiwan. There's exercises going on over there all the time, right? When North Korea was stepping out of line, we were sending ships over there and having some nice little exercises next to their beaches, right? So it's a way of letting people know, hey, we're ready when you are, right? We don't want to take it there. Maybe we don't want to take it there, but there's definitely people in the administration, one way or another, that want to take it there, right? Because it's a money problem. It's a money thing. It's the money printing machine when you go to war. So the military industrial complex, all these things, right? They would love it. But at the end of the day, I'm not saying that that's what they are shooting for. I'm just saying it's important to have the exercises to be prepared in case things do go sideways.
We talk about preparedness all the time. Yeah.
It's always important. But man, I would hate to see the day come when that escalation happens, because it's not going to be
well. That escalation isn't going to be something simple. It's not going to be, us sending a few tanks overseas, and it's going to be buttons being,
would
codes,
it though?
Codes being looked at.
Man, I don't know, man.
No. I'm not saying nuclear immediately. I'm saying that the warfare that happens now is so much different than it was before, that it is effectively, everything's gone digital, right? And we have all of this technology that's so we're able to avoid losing many lives at this point by using the drone warfare. And since the military industrial complex is alive and well, and we print money on demand, especially for the military, and like there's so much happening as we advance our technology. What I'm suggesting is that because it will start off that way, I feel like it could absolutely just explode, no pun intended, to the point where people are threatening to go nuclear with it. Now, do I think that the United States is still the biggest superpower in the world as it relates to the military? Yes. But do I think that we're invincible? I don't. And I think we need to be paying attention to the fact that when China and Russia team up and are trying to do everything they can to hurt our dollar, when they're trying to effectively, hurt us as it relates to oil and everything that they can, we've got to wake up and pay attention to the fact that we're not invincible either. We're not Superman, right? So
Yeah, for sure. I think Patriot came and was talking about the BRICS nations and taking hold. Yeah, I think that an economical war is more effective than a hot war right now. So that's why I wouldn't
but
think
that's what they're
that.
doing. That's what they've
Yeah,
already
yeah, yeah.
started. They've fired
That's
that
why I
off
don't
with all the
think.
brick
Yeah,
stuff
that's why I
happening.
don't think nuclear would be an immediate response, or escalating it into a hot war. It doesn't actually benefit um, a lot of countries in the terms of that. It benefits certain groups in countries. Doesn't actually benefit the country. But man, war is such a tricky thing. There's so many angles, so many things. Like you're still finding out things every single day about World War II, and that was almost 100 years ago, right? That you're like, oh wait, I didn't know that angle was being exploited.
Uh-huh.
Oh wait, I didn't know people were doing this or doing that.
Oh, you never
Um,
get the full story.
right. So like I hope we don't see it, dude. I hope we really don't see a World War III popping off for whatever the reason, whoever the bad guy is, or whatever. It's not gonna be pretty, dude.
I think it is going to come down to economics, though. I think that is. I don't
Well,
disagree.
yeah. Look at Caveman's comment, right? If BRICS does take
Oh, I see it
hold,
right
if
here.
they do
Yeah.
take hold of, and the dollar is in trouble, the United States will resort to violence to
Oh,
save
yeah,
the dollar.
for
Right?
sure.
They can't economically go to war with these countries because we are dependent. It's like how we talked about earlier in the show. Energy wise, we are dependent. By
Yep.
being dependent on these countries, you can't economically go to war with them. You would have to go physically
Yeah.
into it because that's the way you're gonna,
Violence is always
extort your power over
Violence is
them.
always on the table, and again, it should be, as I view it, a last resort. But you think about, even just on a very simplistic view, thinking about Vegas next week, right? If you look back to the old school, that like, hey, we'll allow you to owe us money. Okay, the first time we come over, hey, we're gonna slap you around a little bit, like give you a little warning. Hey, time to pay the debt. Next, it's getting legs broken. Third time, you're gonna disappear somewhere, right? And so ultimately, our governments on a massive level kind of operate in that sense. It's like, hey, let's have a discussion. Okay, we might slap you around a little bit. Okay, now it's time to get and yes, it is going to be, because it always is, like we keep talking about, money, power, money, power, money, power. And if the BRICS nations are effectively able to take away money and threaten us with that power, ooh, we're going to do something about it. I mean, we have to. There's no
Yeah.
oh, we might, like we would have to. So all right. Well, DCA fam, we love you guys. We appreciate you for being here. Again, we'll be here every Sunday, 1 p.m., trying to grow the channel. If you know somebody that likes, some of the political stuff, we are trying to walk the line a little bit. We would go a little more hardcore sometimes, but we're trying to not get kicked off of YouTube as quickly as, humanly possible. Trying to make sure to do that. We appreciate everybody for being here. Yeah, I don't know, guys. We love you, and just remember to question everything.
Trust nothing.
We'll see you soon.